Hello everyone and welcome back to Agent Nagash channel dedicated to Agent Sigmar, and in this video we're going to be taking another look at the Beasts of Chaos as part 9 of their army series, and really the last part of the army series until we get to the Y play. So quite exciting to review this whole army, and certainly learned a lot from it. And like I say, there will also be a Y play that's a little bit separate to the long army series, and that will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. But part 9 is quite interesting, and particularly in this video, as we'll be looking at list building, which is something completely brand new really I've done on the channel. I maybe have tinkered with it a few years back, but this is the first time I'm trying to restart it, as with the recent poll I put up, you guys are very much in favour of me making list building videos, so why not start with the Beasts of Chaos? And with that, I will really appreciate your feedback as always, particularly over this video, just so I know how to push this idea of list building videos forward and how I can provide you guys the best content possible. So what I would like to mention also in these lists, so we're going to have 3 we're going to go through, and what I want to say is that as you guys who've been watching the Beast of Chaos videos, you will know that I do not play Beast of Chaos, and with these lists you'll see that they're not going to be the most competitive Beast of Chaos lists you can come up with. You study hours at it. What they are lists that are viable. You know, they give you a good game, that sort of thing. Competitive in some senses. There is a plan involved with some of them, but they are not nothing but competitive and trying to win as many games as possible. Beasts of Chaos, like I mentioned in all the other videos for them, they're not the most competitive army out there. However, a lot of people just say that they're dog shit and they can't even fight anything out of a paper bag. So the idea of all of these Beasts of Chaos videos were just to let you know that, you know, they can win some of their games, and how can we help to do that. So what I also want to say with these videos as part of the pre-ramble is there are no Zangors featuring any of these lists, because I'm fed up every time someone mentions Beast of Chaos they only talk about Zangor units. So I wanted to take a different approach, as I do quite often on the channel, so there will be no Zangor units in either of these lists. And the 3 lists we'll be looking at, there'll be a Darkwalkers list, so that's a sub-allegiance. We'll be looking at a Brass Spoiler list, so that's a battalion that involves the corn, so it makes everything corn in your army pretty much. And then the last one is going to be essentially basically just a fun list, which is going to be all about Bulgors, because for me Bulgors are one of the coolest units in this whole army, you know, one of the top 3 for sure, and I really feel like they deserve their own list. And also someone requested it as well, a subscriber on YouTube, so I think yep, definitely cover that. Okay, so with all the pre-ramble aside, let us get to our first list, which will be, like I said, the Darkwalkers. Okay, so this list is going to be 2,000 points. The sub-allegiance, so like I said, the Great Fray is going to be Darkwalkers. The Mortal Realm you'll be from is Gur, so the Realm of Beasts. For an artifact, you get 1 extra command point because you've got a battalion in here. You have 0 allies, and your wound count is 178. And it's a free drop list. Okay, so going into the actual units themselves in this list, firstly, looking at the leaders, so we're going to start with a Doom Bull, so he's also going to be your general. He's going to have the command trait Nomadic Leader, so this is as part of the Darkwalkers sub-allegiance. You have to take the command trait they've got, and you have to take one of the artifacts they've got. So he's got that one, which is going to add 1 to run rolls for friendly Darkwalker units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this general, and that's everything in the army. So he's got that, and then for his artifact he's got Predator's Talk, so that is the one from the Realm of Beast Gur, so that's why we're from there, and it's going to allow him to reroll his charge rolls, which we'll talk about be useful. And then we've got a Dragon Ogre Shagoff, and he is going to have the artifact from the Darkwalkers, which is the Desolate Shard. And I'll just tell you what that does right now. So once per battle at the start of your hero phase, the bearer can use the Desolate Shard if they are within 3 inches of a terrain feature. If they do so, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 1 inch of the terrain feature. On a 4+, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So, you know, alright, it's just something you have to take with it. So we've got him, and then we've got a Law of the Dark Storms from as well, which is the Dragon Ogre Shagoff spell law they can choose from. And the one I've gone from is Hailstorm, because that's the one that can halve enemy movement. And then we've got, to finish off the leaders, 2 Great Brave Shamans. One of them has got the Tendrils of Atrophy. Apologies if I pronounce the words wrong, of course. But that essentially makes the enemy have a -1 save cast upon. And then we have the Great Brave Shaman lastly, with the Vile Tide, it's a way for you to do D3 mortal wounds to the enemy or D6 if they get close enough. Okay, and then for battle line, as we have the Doom Bull as our general, our 2 3-man Bulgor units now become battle lines. That's cool. So we have 2 units of 3 of those, and they both have great axes. And then we have 10 Ungors to finish off the battle line. For other units, we have 30 Bestigors, we have 1 Tuskor Chariot, and then we have another Tuskor Chariot, and then we have 40 Ungor Raiders, 10 Chaos Warhounds, and then for Behemoths we have 1 Cygor, and for battalions, which a lot of this army is based around, we have the Desolating Beast Herd. Okay, so now that we've had a quick look through the whole list, what does it actually do? So it all comes down to the Darkwalkers. So if you haven't watched my, I think, Beast of Chaos Army Part 2 video, I went through all the sub-allegiances, so there'll be more in-depth review there if you want to know more about the Darkwalkers. But a quick summary is essentially they let you set your War Herd units and Thunderscorn, if that is applicable. They allow you to set them up in ambush with your Grey Herd units. And what you can do with the Darkwalkers as well is up to half of the units that are set up in ambush can set up on the second turn instead of the first. So essentially, if everything works out mathematically correctly, like a quarter of your army you start the game with, you have in your list, you can set up in reserve. So the idea behind this list is it's a very sneaky list. So, like a lot of things in Beast of Chaos, it is going to run up to the enemy and try and punch them in the face. But instead of mainly hitting your enemy from the front, you'll be doing it from the rear, because a lot of this works in this army list with the Desolating Beast Herds. This is going to be every unit in your army, apart from the Chaos Warhounds and the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. So, what the Desolating Beast Herd does is if your unit you're attacking with is wholly within the enemy territory, so not like a base overlapping into your territory, wholly within their territory, look at the battle plan to know for sure where those measurements are. Then if that unit you're attacking with gets a 6 to hit, it explodes and turns into 2 successful hits. So then you make 2 wound drills. Right? A lot of armies are getting things like that now, like Sinesh can do it and a lot of our armies can. And it just gives you a way to play in that game, if you like, and really to maximise your attacks, especially with things like Bulgors with Grey Axes, where they haven't got many attacks, but they get a 6. That's really going to help, definitely for sure, especially how good their wounding is for their potential. Okay, so why is that important with this list, the Desolating Beast Herd? You have to be in the enemy territory. Why does that make sense? Why does that match up with Darkwalkers? That's because with the Darkwalkers, like I've mentioned, when you teleport from the board edges, instead of setting up, you can set up in the enemy territory, which is quite often what you will do. And then that means that you're already wholly within the enemy territory, so you haven't got to worry about making sure everything measures out. No, you're just already going to get that buff. Just try and remember it. So you've got that. The way how you want to deploy this army is you want to start with things on the table. And that is going to be firstly, a Grey Bray Shaman. And this one with the lore spell called Vile Tide. He is going to set up next to the Herdstone. He's going to set up next to 10 Ungors just to do like the sacrifice thing. And the reason he's got the Vile Tide is because anything comes close, he's got a better chance of trying to fire it off. So that's his job. He'll be doing that. And then you'll also want to deploy on your side your 30 Bestigors. So you're going to have your 30 Bestigors set up. You're then also going to have your 10 Chaos Warhounds as a screen for them in case the enemy tries to charge them. You're also going to have set up on the table straight away. It's going to be the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. Essentially, he's there. He's a little bit of a beast. He's not, a massive killer on the table, but he can deal some damage, like I've talked about before in other videos. And his main job is he's there to halve the enemy movement with that spell, casting value 6. So more often than not, if you're not including, enemy unbinding potential, as that makes mass armor much harder, you'll get it off more times than less. So that's why he's there for. And he can also be there for a bit of support on your side of the battlefield. Bear in mind that you'll be setting things up in reserve. You'll then also be setting up your 40 Ungor Raiders on your side of the table as well. Some people may set them up in reserve because they think it'd be quite a good idea to set them up and shoot the enemy from behind, which may be true. It means if they set up, they can shoot that turn more than likely. However, I think you don't want to put all your large model count units off the table and then try and bring them on, because it may be a bit harder trying to fill those bases on, and also it doesn't really give you much ball control until all those units come onto the battlefield itself. So with that, we have got our Ungor Raiders, our Chaos Warhounds, our Besticles, our Ungors, one Great Grey Shaman, and one Dragon Ogre Shaggoth set up on the table. So that's 6 units set up on the table, and we have 13 units in this army. So we have to set up just one more on the table, and then that will make it okay numbers wise to set up the rest in reserve. So the one that we are going to set up on the table is going to be a Great Grey Shaman, and that's going to be the one that is to -1 to the enemy's save. I'd ideally like to set him off the table so he can support the Bulgor force essentially, but it just doesn't work out mathematically. You can tweak and stuff, but in my head when I'm coming up with this list, I'm thinking, we'll set them off the table for now. So off the table, we're going to have a Doom Ball, your 2 units of Bulgors. We're also going to have the Sigor, and then we're going to have the 2 Tuskor Chariots. So what's the reason behind this? Firstly, the Sigor, as I've mentioned when I reviewed the Sigor, and I got on a bit of a rant about it, where it's like it never has a place where it's good, and then I came up with one in the Darkwalkers. You set up behind enemy lines, it just pisses off the enemy by trying to kill its small wizards, even if they don't have small wizards. Just try and do some damage to the nasty wizards, or try and just do some unbinding. Essentially, be a pain in the arse. The enemy's going to have to deal with it. So that's him doing. He works pretty independently. He's fine. You can set up far away from the rest of your army. Any other ambush and forces, he can do his own thing. Just make sure he's in range of the enemy magic casters, their wizards, to try and bugger them up. So he's doing that. And then that leaves us with the 2 Tuskor Chariots and the 2 units of Bulgors with the Doom Ball. So the 2 units of Bulgors, essentially, they want to charge the enemy, obviously, and do as much damage as possible. And the Doom Ball is there to be able to spend a command point to help them reroll their charge, to get that charge off. And the Doom Ball can reroll his charge anyway because of his artifact from the Realm of Beast. So he's there to help get the boys into the fight. What is the reason behind the Tuskor Chariots? Now, they are kind of a failsafe. The reason behind them is to try and do the same thing, try and charge the enemy. Especially if you can charge an enemy flank or rear with the Tuskor Chariots, just in case the Bulgors don't make the charge. Because Tuskor Chariots can reroll their charge roll, flat out, it's just one of their abilities. And then they can tie the enemy up, just in case you don't make that charge with your Bulgors, and then it's your enemy's turn next, let's say, and then you're just going to get really royally fucked because you've just set up on the board edge, you haven't been able to make your charge, and now you're just sitting there right next to the entire enemy force. You want to make sure you hit them, or at least bugger up their plan of being able to hit you back straight away. Because otherwise, unless they can retreat and charge, if they're still in combat with these Tuskor Chariots, they're kind of buggered really. Because the Tuskor Chariots are not hard to kill, but if you charge a flank of a big block of enemy models, it's going to be hard for them to try and chew through them really in one turn. And that's the idea behind that. So that is the idea behind the army. The reason why there's a bit of a split here and there is because you don't want to put too much focus into the ambushing, purely from my point of view, because I think if I go, right, okay, I'm going to have 2 units of 6 Bulgors, I'm going to have double the Doom Balls, everything in ambush, you really got to think more about on your side of the territory as well. It's really making as many threats to the enemy as possible. It's all about ball control with Beast of Chaos, and that's what a lot of people say as well. But you have to have multiple threats to the enemy, because the enemy could go first and you haven't set up your Bulgors yet or anything, and they're thinking, right, okay, so he's got 6 Bulgors that can come up with a Doom Ball, a Sigor. They're maybe a bit too unsure about the Tuskor Chariots. Maybe they know you can reroll your charge to them. They think maybe that's it. But so they've got that in reserve. But on the table, they've still got to deal with 30 Bestigors. They've got 40 Ungor Raiders that are going to, not annihilate your opponent with shooting, but they will, they will be annoying for sure. You then also have the Warhounds that are protecting your Bestigors. You've got a Shaggoth who's going to halve the enemy movement, so that's the target that needs to go. And then you've got your sacrificing going from the Great Grey Shaman. So there's a lot of target priority suddenly for your opponent to deal with, whilst bearing in mind that an ambush is going to come and get him. So if your opponent does, like, let's say, like, for example, when I fought against a Beast of Chaos army, my opponent set up so much in reserve that I basically just screened my backboard off with my models, and then he couldn't really do anything apart from just basically ambush on his side of the board, and then it was just a waste of his turn because he deployed so much in ambush. But if you go sort of half and half on it, then your opponent can't just string out their models on their side of the board to try and stop the ambushing, because they've got to deal with the army they've got right in front of them as well as the ambush force. I sort of feel like I've explained this enough now, but that's the idea behind it. And yeah, I think it works quite well. It'll be interesting to see how it was to work on a tabletop. Okay, so the next one is going to be the Brass Despoilers. So, of course, this is the Khorne-focused battalion. It's Beasts of Chaos, obviously. It has no Great Fray. It comes from no mortal realm in particular. It's got 2,000 points. Has got a battalion, so it gets an extra command point and, of course, extra artifact. Has got 210 points worth of allies we'll get to. And it's got 160 wounds. And it's a 4-drop list. So one more drop over the Darkwalkers just looked at, which is a free drop, like I mentioned, which is quite good. But to be honest with drops, unless you've got a really specific thing you want to do with an Alpha Strike, I'm not bothered with drops. As long as you can defend yourself best you can against an enemy Alpha Strike, I'm never really too bothered about the drops. So looking at this army, so going into the units, so leaders to start with, we've got a Doom Ball. So he's your general, and he's got the command trait, which is a Rampant Juggernaut, which means that all Warherd units that are wholly within 12 inches of him can reroll their charge rolls. And then his artifact, he's got the Cleaver of the Brass Skull. And what that does is you get an extra rend with his big axe, and if he gets a 6 to hit, it's going to +1 damage to that attack as well. So makes him pretty killy at that point, and it's brass Despoilers. It all kind of works. As you can kind of guess as I go through this list, as it's being Khorne, it's all about killing things. So the next things we have are going to be a Beast Lord, and a Beast Lord, so 3 Beast Lords there. We are going to give one of them the artifact, the Knowing Eyes. This is the one where you can, at the start of the hero phase, roll a dice on a 4+. If this guy's still alive, obviously, you get an extra command point. So that's always useful to have on a 4+. And then we have a Great Brave Shaman. He's got lore from his Twisted Wild. It's going to be Trendril of a Trophy, which is the one that mines the one from the enemy save as well. And then we're going to go into our ally now. So this is going to be a whole 210 points in one model, which is going to be a Slays of Darkness Demon Prince, because the Beasts of Chaos can ally with the Slays of Darkness. And we thought we were putting a Demon Prince there. Obviously, he's got the axe just because I think it's more of a reliable weapon, and also rend is not so prominent in this army, especially -2, so I think the -2 from the axe is useful, and he's obviously going to be Markov Chaos Khorne. Not that it really comes into it for this scenario, but you know, thematically, yes. Okay, in the battle line we are going to have 2 units of Bulgors with Grey Axes again, and like the last list, the Doom Ball, like I said, is the general, so they are battle line. We are then going to have 30 Gors, and they're going to have Gore Blades and Beast Shields, and then we're going to have 10 Ungors with Mauls and Half Shields. And then going into the other units, so we're going to have 30 Bestigors, and then another unit of 30 Bestigors. Behemoths, we have none, and the battalion, we have the Brass Despoilers. So it all comes down to, what does the Brass Despoilers do? Well, everything that's in the Brass Despoilers are going to get the Khorne keyword, obviously, but there is, of course, the extra benefit on top. And like I say, I've also reviewed battalions in the last video, so if you want a more in-depth talk about Brass Spoilers, go check that out. But essentially what it does is units from this battalion that are wholly within 9 inches of another unit from this battalion can re-roll hit rolls of 1. In addition, once per game, you can make it so you get the re-rolls hit rolls of 1 if you're wholly within 9 inches of another unit from this battalion, but you also get to re-roll failed wound rolls as well, as a big sort of, you know, explosion of bloodlust. And when I first read this, I was kind of like, wholly within 9 inches, you know, that's really short. It's really hard to get done, but as you can see, it's the reason why I've got so many Beast Lords in this army, because if you do things like just plop a Beast Lord in a middle block of 30 Bestigors, unless when things get really strung out, if you pile in wrong and stuff, you'll always be wholly within 9 inches. It's something I learned with my Nighthawk army, that a lot of things are wholly within 12. If you just put a hero in the middle of a block, it sorts the initial, like, oh my god, how am I going to be within range problem. So you want to do that. So you've got 1 Beast Lord for each Bestigor unit. So that means that they also get those reroll 1s to hit. And I know you could go, well, if I go against an order unit, I can get reroll 1s to hit. Yeah, but you can't guarantee you will fight order, essentially. So it would then turn your Bestigors into pretty goddamn killer units. With the Bulgors, the reason why I've only got units of 3 of them is for the Doom Ball to be with them, to let them get those reroll charge rolls as part of this command trait, but also to get the reroll 1s to hit. It just makes it easier wholly within 9 inches, because their bases are 50mm, so they are quite big. Okay, so that's why we've got that, and that's how it comes into it. Those are basically the most killy things in this army, in this list, that will benefit from the battalion. How does everything else work? So, again, we're going to have a Grey Shaman who's going to be moving up the front of the lines. He can be, essentially, you want to make him as close as possible to both of the Bestigor units, if you can group them in one big block of that, looking at that, just to try and get them the extra movement. That's why he's there. Like I say, he can -1 to the enemy save, but he's mainly there just for the movement buff he gives to the Bray Herd units. What I would say is, instead of initially, like I'm thinking, trying to make both the Bestigor units benefit from this movement buff, just target one of them, because then that one will always get it, rather than trying to stretch yourself too thin. And if you're thinking, like, oh, how am I going to get it? Same as, like I said, with the Beast Lords, just pop them right in the middle. Okay, and then we've got our 3rd Beast Lord is there to sacrifice things. So he's there with the 10 Ungors next to the Herdstone to sacrifice them and try to summon things. Again, he's going to have the Knowing Eye artifact, as of course we get 2 artifacts here, so we have a battalion. And that's just because, like I said, an extra command point is always useful. And then when we come down to really the last unit, I think we have second to last, I'll cover the Slaves of Darkness one at the end. So we have the 30 Gores. So the reason behind the 30 Gores is essentially string them out as long as you can in front of your Bestigor units, just as a screen. Because it's going to be, if they are, let's say 2 inches in front of your Bestigors, it means that if the enemy charges your Gore unit, then your Bestigors are probably then piling an attack of, now that your Gore unit's been destroyed, they did the job, the screen's gone, now your Bestigors can pile an attack. Or you can have it so they're a bit further front of your Bestigors, so the enemy's got no flying, and just make it so it's a big buffer for the enemy to get past, to try and get to your Bestigors. They're going to have to kill your Gores. Your Gores are there to die, essentially, but they're there to die so your Bestigors survive. At least until it doesn't matter anymore. And then we have the last unit, which I mentioned, is the Slaves of Darkness Demon Prince. So why is he in the army? Because he may seem a bit of a, apart from thematically being Khorne, you might see him a bit of a random one in the army. The reason I put him in the army is because he's not a bad damage dealer at all, really. He's got a command trait, being Khorne, which doesn't mean that you have to be in a Slaves of Darkness army to really benefit from it. It's a way to half the enemy like running charge rolls, I believe it is. So that's great. It's basically he makes blood flow all around him on the ground and just makes everything all slippy for the enemy to run on. So that's generally a useful ability. And you might be thinking, well, how are you going to get the command points for it? Well, you get an extra command point from this army, having the battalion. Your Beast Lord with the Knowing Eye is going to try and get the extra command point. And you may think, well, the enemy might just snipe him out. Yep, they may do, but he's got a 4-up save, and there's a lot of other things going on for the enemy to really focus on him. The Slaves of Darkness Demon Prince has got a 3+ save, which is great. And the main reason he is in the army is because he will attack the start of the combat phase before anyone else, unless someone else has got a similar ability. So that means that a problem you can have in an army like Beast of Chaos, where you have a lot of squishy things, even if they're high damage dealers, like glass cannons, like your Bulgors with those 5-up saves, you can still attack with your Bulgors first, or your Bestigors first, and your Demon Prince would have already attacked before that, because he always attacks first. So you don't have to worry again, I'll attack with the Demon Prince first and the Bull Gore's going to take some time. Nope, he will just always attack first unless he comes across something else similar that attacks first. I think he's just generally a great auto-include. In this this list I came up with, I think for 210 points, he's great. In a Stated Darkness army, when I have played them a little while ago, I always took at least one, just with how useful they are. You could have had Be'lakor in this army, because you could ally him in as well, and he's great to nerf the enemy. I probably, if I had a few more points left over, I probably would. But the main reason I've got the Slated Darkness Demon Prince in this army instead of Be'lakor is because the Demon Prince is dedicated to Khorne, which works thematically. So that's the reason behind it. And that's the reason behind this list, really. So it's very much straightforward. Run up and hit the enemy in the face. Not from behind. Straightforward. Being Khorne, of course. And I personally think, after reading through all the God-specific battalions, not looking at including Beasts of Chaos in a other allegiance, depending on which god you're on, but in a Beasts of Chaos army, I think the Brass Spoilers is personally the best. Just because it's easy to get the benefit off. As long as you're careful with your movement, maybe not in your first time you try it out, you may make a few mistakes, but the more you try it, the more disciplined you will be about movement. And it's, like I say, one of the ones to get the easiest benefit. Nurgle is easy to get the benefit from that as well, but I don't think it's quite as good. Tzeentch, if you're not against magic, pointless. And then when we come to Slaanesh, which is my favourite Slaanesh, obviously, you know, it's my favourite Chaos God. It's just too specific. You need to be in range of an enemy with an artifact of power, and you can make scenarios as if you are like, oh, it's great for this, and you can pull this off, you can do a few synergies here and there, but you just can't guarantee it. It's like the Tzeentch one with magic, but even harder to guarantee. So that is my thoughts behind it, and that is why I chose the Brass Spoilers to review. Okay, so with that, going on to our last one, which I say is a bit of a fun one, but in all honesty, is one of the reasons why I play Beasts of Chaos. Now, I've named it the Hungering Warherd after the battalion it's mainly based around. So this is all about Minotaurs, so if you don't like Minotaurs, leave now. Simply, Allegiance Beasts of Chaos, Grey Fray, none, Mortal Realm, none, total points 2000, extra command point 1, 0 allies, wounds 157, and 7 drop list. We're not giving two shits about drops here. So, what we've got is the leaders. We have a Doomball, which of course is going to be our general in a Minotaur army. So he is going to have the command trait a Rampant Juggernaut to give your Warherd units that are wholly within 12 inches of him the reroll to charge. So of course remember that also includes him. And then we have the artifact with his Cleaver, the Brass Ball. We then have a other Doomball. We then have a Beast Lord with the artifact the Known Eye. And then going into really the meat and potatoes of this list is going to be our battle line units. So we're going to have a unit of 9 Bullgors with grey axes, a unit of 6 Bullgors with grey axes, a unit of 6 Bullgors with grey axes, 10 Ungors, clearly to be sacrificed, and then other units we have 10 Chaos Warhounds and 1 Tuskor Chariot. For Behemoths we actually have 2, so we have a Gorgon and we have a Chimera. And the battalions we have the Hungering Warherd. So you may be wondering, what does the Hungering Warherd do? Well, you can include 1 Doomball, 3 units of Bullgors, and you can also include 1, 2, 3 units of Gorgons or Cygors. I think it's 1 to 3 or 0 to 3. But what are we going to get with this battalion? So the battalion allows you to pile in your Warherd units an extra 3 inches. So that's a massive bonus. Now, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't mean you can pile into combat when you're 6 inches away. When you have to already be in combat unless it specifically states otherwise. That's what I am aware of the rule. But the main reason why this is great, and suddenly I've gone from taking units of 3 Bullgors in the other list to at least 6 here, maximum 9 in a single unit, is because with those grey axes and with any of their weapons, it's only a 1 inch range for some reason. Yes, a Skaven Spear or a Garrote Spear that is smaller than your fingernail is a 2 inch range, and a Bullgor Grey Axe is a 1 inch range. It's one of the many mysteries of Age Sigmar. But with those Grey Axes, nonetheless, they are 1 inch, so you really need the extra 3 inch pile in to take these bigger units, so you don't miss out with the 50mm size bases. It can make a massive impact if they can't all get into fight. So this list is almost like the Khorne list, where it's, you know, straight up punch him in the face. However, unlike the Khorne list, there's not really more tactics behind it. It is simply just charge your Bulgors into the enemy and see if they can withstand. You're going to have a Beast Lord here sacrificing some Ungors at the Herdstone, and also another reason why I just want to talk about the Beast Lord sacrificing. You may be wondering, why are you not using a Great Ray Shaman to do it? Because a lot of people do it. Simply, the Beast Lord is 10 points cheaper. And in this list where it all cares about, Minotaurs, I don't really care about the magic. They don't need magic, they're fine. It means that you're not relying on magic. You can feel free. You don't have to worry about casting rolls. You're fine. So, if that's the idea behind the battle line, what's the idea behind the other units? The 10 Chaos Warhounds are there to essentially screen your Bulgor units best they can, or hold an objective, because you are very low on models here, especially compared to our other lists we've looked at. So that's their job, to screen or hold an objective. The Tuskor Chariot, exactly the same reason. It's a big base. You may be thinking, why not just have another 10 Chaos Warhounds? Didn't have the points, and the Tuskor Chariot is alright. And then the Behemoths, we've got the Gorgon. So the reason why he's in there is because, like I say, he's included in the battalion. And I don't think you can have a Minotaur army without a big fuck-off Minotaur being the Gorgon, can you? So we've got him in there. And then we've also got the Chimera, because the Chimera is quite a multitask. Got the shooting, which is quite cool. I didn't want to make a Beast of Chaos list without including the Chimera, because it's my favourite Beast of Chaos monster. So that's what he's there for, doing more wounded output. And also him and the Gorgon, both separately, another threat for the enemy to deal with. They can't just focus on your 9 Bulgor unit and your 2 6 units of Bulgor, so they've also got these couple other things. Admittedly, the 9 Bulgor units and the 9 Bulgor unit and the units of 6 Bulgors are probably going to be more threatening, and the enemy's going to prioritise them first. Understandable. So the Gorgon and the Chimera can probably get up to whatever they want. And that's pretty much it behind this list. Much shorter, but I know that it had to be done. So with an overview on a summary of the lists I've shown you today, like I said, they're not the most competitive lists you can get if you were to study the Battletome for hours, anything like that. And I've obviously been looking at that Battletome so long, because I must be about 8 hours or something worth of content I've made for the Beast of Chaos at the end of this video sort of point for them. So I have done a lot, but I think one of the big things behind an army such as this is just the appeal, fun and playstyle, and that's what I've tried to do with these lists. I've tried to make them have some tactics or a competitive streak, a game plan behind them. I think game plan is a nice word to use. Behind the lists, not so much the Minotaur one, but the other two. And but I also wanted them to be fun. I didn't want them to just be, right, take this many Gors, take that many Gors. Basically just nothing but blocks of models, because I'm not going to enjoy moving that many. I have got quite a few blocks here, but some of them can be quite killy, and there's quite a few reasons behind it rather than just take up space on the board. So that's been my idea behind it. Like I said, this is my first list building episode. So really, honestly, any thoughts from you guys? About how you think it went, or what you would like to see improved, or if there's anything you did like, let me know down below. If there's anything that you think should change with the list that I came up with, absolutely feel free to let me know. Or also, of course, if I've made any mistakes, let me know that as well. And it'd be great to hear that, because we are all here to learn. Like I say, I'm not a Beast of Chaos player, but I just wanted, the point of this video is to hopefully make you guys leave with a few ideas of how to work upon your Beasts of Chaos in building them into a list. So with that, guys, I'm going to thank you very much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please smash that like and subscribe button, as that massively helps the channel. It's absolutely free for you guys to do so. It massively makes a difference and really lets me know that you guys are enjoying the videos. And if you would like to support the channel a step further, I have got a Patreon, so you can go and head on there to check it out if you would like to. Anything helps, even just $1 a month is the reasons why I can keep going with these videos. And that is why I can't thank enough my patrons. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be doing this channel. So a massive thank you to them. In particular, Ruas, who has just become a vampire on Patreon. Thank you very much for your support, mate. It generally really does help towards the channel. And like I said, is the reason I can continue doing this. So thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate your support. Okay, guys, so with that, I'm going to thank you very much again for watching this video. Remember, until next time, to stay safe and hygienic. And of course, remember, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.